welcome to Katie's Kitchen, episode number 7. Today we are going to cook chicken pot pie. I have to tell you, I'm not super confident about this recipe because I've never made chicken pot pie before of any variety, whereas the others, like, I kind of made it, even if not that recipe, something similar to it. And then the other thing is we got frozen pie crust that we're just going to lay out in our pie tins, and if I use the amount that it called for in the directions of the pie crust, then the calories per serving were like 560 calories per serving, and that's a lot. So we're going to try and make it work with only half of what they say. So if we are successful in that, though, then it brings it up to 340 calories per serving, which is way more where we want to be. So the first thing that I need to do is talk about cooking implements first. So I have 2 cutting boards because I'm going to have chicken and vegetables today. So I have one here and the other one's back there, keeping them separated until I need the other one. Then I have my wet measuring cup. I have a variety of dry measuring cups. And then I own one pie pan, and then we had to buy just the tinfoil ones that you can get. They're relatively cheap. I think they're only like $2 or $3.
Yeah.
If you don't have a pie tin of your own. But standard 9-inch. So the first thing that
we're 8 3/4.
8 3/4. For some reason they had 8 3/4 and 10-inch. Even though 9-inch is like what I've seen in every recipe ever for pie. The other thing is if you're super into it, you can make your own pie crust. And they actually sell like Jiffy mixes for 75 cents, which is a lot cheaper than these because these are about $2 a piece. $2 per box. So I had one box. We bought 2 boxes all together. So, you know, you could save money there, or I know like my grandma has a recipe for just homemade pie crusts. So, you know, you can get as creative or not creative as you want. This chicken is a little bit frozen from the store, but it's just a pound, and again, we chose breast meat. You can make this dark meat if you prefer. And the other thing with chicken is if you buy it in bulk, you can save and then freeze it. Obviously the store already freezes it, so it's not like you're cutting yourself off from fresh chicken by doing it that way, and you can save a little bit of money. Speaking of money, this was $1.86 per serving and should make about 8 servings. Now that's 8 servings that are Katie size and 4 servings that are Jeremy size. So, you know, if you're a guy, then you probably only makes 4 servings, in which case you'd have to double the cost. So it'd be like $3.60 per cost. But that's still cheaper than going to McDonald's.
Oh yeah.
So, the other thing, I'm just going in and cutting out some of the fat, throwing that away because we don't want to eat that. And then it just calls for us to cube it. So I'm just going to slice it. And what you're looking for is about the size that you would want to stick into your mouth. You don't want the meat to be too big.
Have you been missing the jokes lately, darling?
What jokes? I'm sure I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm sure you don't.
So we're just cubing it into bite-sized pieces because this is going to be a warm meal, and then the other thing you have to remember is you don't have a knife when you eat chicken pot pie, so you really don't have anything to cut it with. And then if you cut it against the crust, then you break the crust, and it's just very inconvenient if your meat's too big. It just doesn't fit, Jeremy. So anyway. So I'm just, like I said, cubing it. It's very cold just because it was frozen. If you wanted to unfreeze it, if it was like this, by the way, you could warm it under warm water. You could run it under warm water, and that should get rid of that ice. Otherwise, you can just do what I'm doing. And the reason why you don't have to thaw it beforehand is the way that we're making the chicken or cooking the chicken is we're going to put it in my skillet that I use pretty much every single time you see me. And we're going to cover it in water, and then we're just going to boil it until it's no longer pink. So in addition to baking it, it's going to get cooked that way, and that would be basically the same thing as running it under warm water, so why double your work? The other thing about this meal is it is a little bit more time consuming than my other meals. Not because the prep time is any longer, but because you do have to allow time to bake. So I think the recipe says the whole thing, so prep time 20 minutes, cook time 50 minutes, and so the whole thing about 1 hour and 20 minutes. I'm not sure how that works because 70 minutes is an hour and 10 minutes.
What
Actually,
was it?
I do because I remember reading it. They allow 10 minutes to cool.
Ah.
So I'm just going in and making sure that I cut all the way through and that my cubes are separated from one another. Then I'm going to take my knife, put it in there. I'm going to take my cutting board without touching my counter. Because everyone knows that egg salmonella is a-okay, but chicken salmonella is not. So, and then I'm going to wash my hands.
In Katie's super safe and clean kitchen.
That's in my super safe and clean kitchen.
While they're watching you wash your hands, I'll give my weight update because I didn't give it on Sunday. I weighed myself for the first time on this diet the Monday after we started it. So I'm at my 1 week point today, which is Monday. And I have lost 4 pounds, which is very exciting. I actually lost more like 4.5, but I rounded to the nearest pound, which was 4. So that's exciting. Hopefully I'll keep up with that. I'm still way heavier than I want to be. My target weight is about the same amount. I want to lose the same amount of pounds Katie does. I want to lose about 50 pounds. Percentage-wise, that's a little bit easier for me because it's a smaller percentage of my weight. But at the same time, I haven't been that weight since like grad school, and I haven't been in grad school in a long time. So whereas Katie was somewhat recently this weight that she's going for, it's been years and years and years for me. In fact, over a decade, which is a little sad to think about.
It's been about 6 years since I weighed what I'm supposed to weigh.
Okay.
So, in addition to my chicken, I am adding a cup of frozen peas. I have my half cup measuring out here. So, unlike with other things that I said don't measure over the bowl, I don't care if I get extra peas in there. So I'm just going to put them in. I also don't really like peas that much, but for whatever reason in pot pie they're okay.
I actually really like these, but pretty much the only time we ever have them is in pot pies. We have bought store-made pot pies before, but we've never made one, so this is exciting for me.
Yes.
Because I love pot pie.
Well, one of the problems that I have with pot pie, it is delicious, is that it's always really calorific.
Yes.
And so it's hard to justify one in a diet. So I went online and I looked, and this one said that it was only, it claims 318 calories, and then it has 2 9-inch unbaked whole wheat pie crusts.
Oh, so I did actually see like a granola crust, so it's possible there's whole wheat crust as well when we were at the store.
Well, there's graham crusts.
That's different though. That's for
and
dessert.
that's different because that's for like pumpkin pie.
You might have to go to like a health store, to be fair.
So I don't know. My crust is a lot more calorific, but we're gonna still try and make it work. So the reason I bought baby carrots instead of real carrots, even though it's gonna take me longer to slice, which all I'm doing is putting them again into little tiny pieces, is because one of Jeremy's favorite snacks is hummus and carrots. It's a really good snack. It's filling. It's not bad for you by any means. You get a little bit of sugar from the carrots and hummus. I don't know anything bad about hummus. I don't know anything good about hummus. It just seems to be something that's delicious and allowed on a lot of diets.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. The only problem with carrots and hummus is I tend to eat so much of it that we run out of carrots and hummus very quickly.
Yeah, well, hummus, because we buy the family size, so hummus is like $5 per container, which isn't that expensive when you break it down by like how much you're supposed to eat. And then Jeremy comes home and eats it in like one afternoon and is like, that was the most expensive snack in the world.
To be fair, I'll eat half a container. It's still not a cheap snack at that point.
No, it's not. So anyway, I'm getting 1.5 cups of carrots. So there's my first half cup. And then I'll get the rest. So, Jeremy, I was going to ask you, how have you been feeling on this diet?
I've actually felt really good. Today is an exception, but today's my fault. So I had to go in, my work has 2 different offices buildings. I went into the other office building today, and so the other office building has a coffee shop, and I was like, oh, I'll just not worry about having the delicious egg breakfast that Katie made, because I'll treat myself at the coffee shop. Only they were sold out of everything that was good when I got there. So I wound up having a cup of chai tea, and that's all for breakfast. And then I came home and I had my tacos for lunch, and the tacos were delicious. And so I felt full, and then I went back to work, and I didn't bring myself a snack because, well, I was full at that point. And so I've had like 300 calories short of what I should have had today because I didn't have breakfast and I didn't have a snack. So I'm feeling very hungry right now, but every other day that we've been on this diet, I've not felt hungry, and today was my fault. So. And I made up for it a little bit. I had some carrots before Katie started cooking, and I'm drinking a cup of tea, which also helps.
So just, Jeremy touched on those egg things. They're really good. They reheated really well. They were really wet when I reheated them. So I stuck a paper towel underneath it so that absorbs some of the moisture. So that's my second half cup, for those keeping track. So those worked out really well. There are a couple of things just to be aware of. One, I tried removing the cupcake wrapper before I microwaved it, and it was more difficult than I had anticipated. It's not that I didn't get it off, or that I was like, my life is so hard because I have to remove this cupcake wrapper. It's just that it was in as easy as I anticipated, and my fingers got really cold because they were frozen. So that was, so I'll try it with microwaving first and see how that works better. The other thing is I ended up eating my afternoon snack, my banana, at the same time as my eggs, because there isn't anything that's carbolicious in that breakfast. I never got that immediate feeling of satiation, and so even though it ended up holding me until like, I started feeling hungry around 11:30, but I didn't eat lunch until noon. So it ended up holding me quite a ways, but I didn't get that initial like, oh, I'm full feeling. So just have something there that can either know that you're gonna have to wait 15 minutes for it to kick in, or just have something else there that can help alleviate that.
Yeah, the oat cakes, because of all the fiber, definitely gave you that full feeling right away. That was not a problem with the oat cakes.
So, oh, and celery. So then we also have, so that was 1.5 cups of carrots, half a cup of peas, and then we have half a cup of sliced celery. You guys are going to notice after a while, somebody's gone to pick up on it, that I never washed my vegetables. I don't know what you want me to do, I'm not changing that. I know it's not good, I just won't fix it. So, I've yet to get sick so far. And it's not even that like my mom didn't wash her vegetables when I was young. Like she does.
Yeah, she does. I've seen her do.
I just don't. I don't know why. I'm lazy. I also ate a lot of dirt as a kid. So
I think a lot of kids do that though.
I'm just gonna go ahead and use 2 old stocks, even though it only calls for a half a cup. Just because I have them, and otherwise they're gonna go to waste. Alright, so then, after you have all that in it, it just says, cover with water, boil until chicken is no longer pink in the middle, and vegetables are fork tender. So when you push it with a fork, it should give a little bit, as opposed to like that crisp crunch that you get with carrots. And then it says that should take about 15 minutes. So I'm just going to get my spoon and make sure that it's even. I made a little pile when I originally did it. Covering it with water. I've heard rumors like if you add salt to water it'll boil faster and stuff like that. I don't know if those are true.
It changes the boiling temperature, having the salt in there. Causes the bubbles to form at a lower temperature. But it does, if you've got stuff in there, it won't really make much of a difference. It's if you're boiling a pot of water.
Okay. It doesn't say what heat to put it over. I'm gonna do medium high, just because that way I have a little bit more control as opposed to just sticking it on high like I would normally for boiling water. Just because I feel like if it starts boiling, it's gonna boil over fast if I'm not watching it. So we have a good 15 minutes before that's ready. So then it says after it's ready, it's gonna cook and stir onions and butter in the saucepan. Now, I'm not gonna use butter. Again, I'm gonna use, I didn't get it out, my Crisco olive oil spray. When I do this, I'm only gonna use 1/3 cup of onion. Because it'll save me the calories, and I haven't noticed a difference.
No, I haven't either.
When I use it. So I don't see why not, I guess. At
Fair.
that point. I felt like the onions didn't seem good today.
I thought it looked like fine onion. But we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, I'm sure it's fine. It didn't seem as appealing to me as the onions normally are. But anyway, and the tacos were really, really good. They did really well. Jeremy used his taco shells as chips.
Yep.
I still broke mine up and put them in there.
But it was delicious both ways.
So it was, I mean, obviously it's the same thing, just
Yeah.
transportation method. But it was really, really good. I would highly recommend the tacos.
Yeah, I would eat the tacos again. The only problem I have with the taco recipe is that we didn't double it, because then I would have had more lunches out of it. And I understand it's because we're cooking other things that we're going to have lunch of tomorrow. But that taco stuff was delicious.
Of course, if I made extra tacos, then we could make things tonight like desserts
We could have.
and stuff. So
another time.
another time. So I thought a cup of onions is not nearly as much as I thought it was. I'm gonna overpile that. I guess I'm gonna waste this part of the onion. Man, I should just keep a baggie of wasted onion.
As a scoreboard.
Well, no, I'm gonna to use because yesterday I threw away probably a third cup,
Yeah, probably.
and I could have kept it and used it. So I'm gonna stick it in a baggie and see if it keeps. The other thing we can do while we're waiting, because I think that's the last thing that I actually need to chop. Yeah, because then we're going to stir in flour, salt, pepper, celery seed. Now, that is a little bit wrong. I do need to chop some celery seeds. So I didn't want to buy celery seed. I don't know if you'll recall in a previous episode I mentioned that you shouldn't buy spices just because one recipe calls for them. Now, if you start to see the spice repeated, that's a little bit different, and you should go ahead and spend the money.
Okay.
This is the first time I've seen celery seed, and so I just looked up substitutes online, and they said that a teaspoon of celery seed can be substituted by 2 tablespoons of the head of lettuce, or not lettuce,
Celery.
of celery.
I'm not sure we're going to have 2 tablespoons of the head.
I think we will. So I'm just kind of pulling the leaves off, and I'm going to use this. Just going to mince it real quick. Is that what it's called, mincing?
It's a thing.
Look at that. I'm all fancy.
Look at you using words.
Using words, hoping nobody notices.
Well, fortunately, Nathan hasn't watched any of these yet, so he's not here to judge your
I
cooking
don't
style.
yet. I don't think he ever will.
Oh, I'll bet he watches when he's on.
Well, yeah, probably. But yeah, he's got a recipe all picked out, so Nathan will come join us one episode, and then Andy's got a recipe picked out if he ever decides he's willing to share it. He made mention of making chili, and then I was like, oh, you could come and co-host. And he was like, well, I don't want to share the recipe.
It's a family secret.
It's a family, well, it might have just been he didn't want to share
The chili itself.
the chili itself. And
To be fair, I could see where he might be coming from. I love me some chili, so.
well, I know, but I want chili too, and it's a really good recipe. So I'm just making it into little small bits. So we'll add that instead of celery seed and see how it goes. The other thing that's a good substitute for celery is leeks. My grandma always used leeks instead of celery.
Oh,
The
interesting.
food was amazing. So, the next thing we're going to do is figure out these pie crusts. So I'm going to use my normal one first. And it says that I should be able to just unroll it on there. I'm going to use scissors as opposed to just stabbing it with a knife, because Jeremy gives me weird looks when I do that. For some reason.
The word you're looking for is judges you. I judge you when you do that. That is true. Of course, now you're kind of just.
It might not come out as a full thing by the time I'm done with it. I'm really bad with pie crust.
Do you need help over there? My goodness.
I got it!
You sure?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to pull it out because it'll tear. My grandma tells me that I make pie crust too thick. So,
This is the grandma that likes me or the grandma I didn't meet?
the grandma that likes you.
Yeah. Well, she likes to judge things that you do.
It's just everything that I do. It's all wrong, by the way.
She loves me though.
In case
I'm awesome.
you're wondering what the actual stance on that is wrong. I'm doing it wrong. Okay.
I'll be honest, Kay. I think we're gonna need to use all of the pie topping things.
I don't know.
I don't think we're gonna get away with half.
Well,
I really don't.
I wonder if we need a top.
Well, it's chicken pot pie. It's not pot pie without a top.
Isn't it? What if I roll the top over it? You know what I mean? It's a lot of calories for crust.
What if you used 3 of the 4? What if you used 2 real bottoms and then you cut the top one to use it for the tops in half? And then it'll be mostly covered.
I don't know, Jeremy Shea.
I'm just saying, it's kind of an integral part of pot pie in my
You're an
mind.
integral part of pot pie.
Sure.
So anyway, you saw me pick up the pie and move it. It's because I didn't get it all the way to the edge of one of them, and it didn't come all the way to the top. So all I'm doing is going around and pushing it into the corner. I don't know. It's a lot of calories. What if we make one pot pie that has a lot of stuff in it? Because a pound of chicken, stay with me here.
I don't think that's all going to fit in one pie tin. I really don't.
Well,
Like, I agree with you. It'd be cool if it would. I just don't think it's going to fit.
I just don't know if it's just a lot of calories.
I know.
I
I thought my idea was a good compromise.
it's not gonna be. It's gonna be. I don't know why you need a top.
All right, but we'll try it without a top then.
We're gonna try it without a top.
All right, you're in charge. It's Katie's kitchen.
Yeah, that's right. So suck it. So the other thing is I wasn't going to start exercising until later in the year. However, my work just announced today that they are having a team competition, and it's a team event, and each member of the team has to do 30 minutes of exercise a day. Now, whether that exercise is gardening, or walking, or running, or whatever your poison of choice is, you just have to do it. And each time you participate, that's my tea.
That is your team.
And each time you participate, you get a little smiley face. And the team with the most smiley faces at the end of the month gets a half a day to go on a group outing
Nice.
with their team. So there's an accounting team specifically, and I just feel like I would be the worst person in the world.
You'd be the weakest link.
And like, I don't think that the manager is supposed to be the weakest link on things like this, right?
Probably not, no. Although your team is so much smaller than the other teams, I'm not really sure how that works out.
No, because Chase is on my team.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah. And then they added some people who are just like general admin
To the accounting team?
to the brokerage team.
Oh, to the
They're
brokerage
really
team.
small too. What if I do this?
That one folds over a little bit better. The other one is clearly an actual 9-inch instead of 8 3/4.
So let's try that. We'll get a smaller tin, and we'll try smaller that way. These crusts, by the way, are remarkably like
Resilient?
resilient to me just manhandling them.
Yeah, I'm kind of impressed.
So
You threw away the box, otherwise I'd say you should get that brand. It was probably the Hy-Vee brand.
it was
let's
a
be honest.
Hy-Vee brand. I got another box in there because we bought 4 crusts in anticipation of, and then I plugged it into my Fitness Pal, and I was like, whoa, that's way too much. So, because then I can fold it. It might have a little thing in the middle, but it would still be.
That works.
I don't know. So anyway, just a second. I have to take a drink. We have bedtime tea, by the way. It's delicious.
It is delicious. We are tea snobs. I disagree with my parents' statement that I'm a food snob, but we are tea snobs. We buy tasty teas.
I really like teas. I'm learning to use them for my caffeine source as opposed to this one doesn't have any because it's a bedtime one. Obviously, then I have the caffeine in it. But so let's see. Yeah, I'm just waiting for this. Literally, I'm gonna turn it up a little bit, and then just kind of stir it. It's just not doing anything.
Yeah, I'm thinking we didn't have the heat high enough, probably.
Well, but like
The chicken's cooking, though, it looks like from here.
The chicken's cooking.
Probably can't tell on the camera, but from visibly I can see it from here.
The vegetables aren't soft yet, but the chicken is cooking.
Are we going to be draining that, by the way?
Yeah. No, I was just gonna throw that in anyway.
We didn't get a colander out. We didn't mention the colander as part of the process.
I use the same tools over and over. And
You
over.
do. I'm just saying.
You should just get whatever tools I have.
Buy all the tools. We should do a little mini video where you're like, these are the tools I use a lot.
Be any video we've made.
Well, to be fair,
Really?
there's something. I mean, you don't use a colander every episode.
I guess I use paper towels to drain the meat.
You did use paper towels to drain
Tacos.
it. Because for hamburger, it's a great life hack.
Life hack. Let me think. What else do we? I really can't do anything else until this is done, and that makes for really boring
Television.
television. So I'm just gonna sit here and drink tea and look at you.
Well, we could pre-measure like the chicken broth and stuff. Is that a useful thing?
Well, we could.
I'm just trying to help.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I can do, let's see, we need a 1/3 cup of flour. So the way that you measure flour, no, my onions are sitting in my 1/3 cup.
Well, that's not going to work at all then.
Anyway, the way you measure flour is you don't just jab it in there. You have to like scoop it. Otherwise, it gets all packed in there, and then you get way more flour than you anticipated. That's another thing that adds a lot of calories to this meal, by the way. It's like the flour in this.
Well, yeah, because this is like one of the first. I think this is the first thing we've cooked on this diet that had flour in it. Flour wrecks you, man.
Well, besides like just a third tablespoon or something.
Well, yeah, but that was like a thickener for the broth sort of thing. It wasn't like.
That was a good thought. Good sentence.
Wow.
So anyway, what I'm going to do for my half hour is I'm going to take the dogs on a walk. And by take the dogs on a walk, I mean I'm going to go to the dog park and I'm going to walk around while my dogs terrorize everyone else. That is exactly what I'm going to do.
Hey, everybody loved our dogs when we went to the dog park last time.
That's completely true.
That's mostly true.
They didn't complain about our dogs.
That's true.
That doesn't mean they loved their dogs.
I have concerns about it getting dark out before we finish cooking, though. I don't know that we'll be able to do that tonight.
So pro tip, we can walk in the dark.
Yeah, but at the dog park?
No, not at the dog park.
You just said take your dogs for a walk at the dog park.
Yeah, the dog park's like a half hour away. This cooks for 30 minutes. How are we going to get to the dog park, walk the dogs, and then get back?
You said that's what you were going to do for your 30 minutes. I don't know.
Think it through.
I don't know.
You got to think it through.
Apparently.
No, okay, so this is what I was going to do is you can kind of work your exercise into your meal thing. Is obviously there's a lot of lag time in this particular meal prep. And so what I was going to do is during the 30 minutes while it's baking, I was just going to go take a short 20-minute walk and then come back, and then it should be about ready by the time I put my shoes on and everything and take it out and then let it cool, and then I'll have dinner.
Your chicken's boiling, by the way.
Oh, is it? That's exciting.
It is exciting.
I'd kind of forgotten what we were doing. Got all foamy on top. Hot.
Well, based on when you put it in there and how long you said it was supposed to boil, it should be just about there. I don't know if it is, but...
That was real hot.
Yeah.
That burnt a little bit.
That's probably why they recommend a fork. Just thinking.
Well, it was nice and bendy.
Well, that's a good sign.
Here. It's kind of ish. If it's a little crispier, I think that's okay.
Works
I
for
just
me.
want to be done. Sometimes you get impatient.
Especially when you're Katie.
Especially when you're meat. The only thing that I would get impatient about is the meat itself. We're just going to cut it open and make sure that it's actually...
It should be cooked, so you can cut it on that board, yeah.
And make sure that it is. So... just slice it open. I'm just opening it and looking to make sure there isn't any pink. There is just a smidge of it. Actually, I think that's just the lighting. I don't think that there is any.
Awesome.
So, we'll move on with the show. We might have to edit that whole part out.
Yeah.
Probably not good TV. This is probably why people like to make their recipes before they try them on the show.
Instead of trying it for the first time on the show.
It smells good.
It's not our style, though.
No, it's not. Planning? What? So it smells really good, and that's because of the celery. Celery, I think, is a kind of onion.
Is it?
I think so.
I actually don't know. I suppose I could look it up real quick.
It seems like something that Google would know. Oh, I think I'm supposed to set this aside. Let me read those instructions. Now I'm all discombobulated. Alright, yep, drain and set aside. So, we're just going to dump that in our colander and let it hang out for a few minutes while we get ready to cook the rest of the stuff. Okay, so then we're going to cook and stir onions in saucepan over medium heat until soft and translucent. So just like every other time we've ever cooked onions. And it should already be hot. I don't know if to wait for the oil itself to get hot. Oops, I didn't get enough. Nope, actually I was wrong. We do have to wait for that to get hot. You know what I could have been doing is had a second saucepan going.
Yep.
That would have been the answer.
That would have been the answer.
Do that.
Yeah.
Because then you won't just be standing here and be like, okay, food, like, time's wasting. And then you'll seem a lot cooler than me. Not that that's hard to do anyway, but, like, in this particular situation. Oh my god, I'm ready for it to be done.
Celery is actually a variety of plant.
Okay.
But the wider family that it belongs to is includes celeries, carrots, and parsley.
Parsley. We actually have parsley going on in this recipe as well.
We do.
So, there you go. Parsleying it up this time. When is it ready? There we go. So we have our 1/3 cup of onions. This should cook pretty fast because there isn't a whole lot there to begin with. While that's doing that, we can measure out our flour. Like I said, you don't just jab your thing in there when you're doing flour. You actually have to spoon it out. Otherwise, you will mismeasure, especially if you try and pack it in. I assume that all of you are adults and understand how flour works at this point, but I'm just going to say it. For my own sanity, that flour packs easily, but should be light. And then obviously if you pack it in there, you'll be adding a ton of calories and it'll come out goopy. So we have a 1/3 of flour that's ready to go. And then we'll need salt and pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of celery seed, so I'm just going to like grab some of that and toss it in. And then 2/3 cup of milk. It calls for skim milk, but I'm going to use 2% milk because that's what we have in the house and that's what we like to drink. The thickness of the milk, like if you go from fat-free milk to whole milk, can actually change it. So then you would want to add a little bit of water to the mixture. Probably a little bit less milk and a little bit of water. But the fattier milk, the creamier it's going to be in general. So those aren't ready yet. Also, I don't know why I measured a 1/4 cup of milk because it calls for 2/3 a cup, and not only did I do that, I put it in the wrong kind of measuring cup.
This is what happens when Katie gets tired and hungry before she cooks for the show. For those of you wondering at home.
Well, you get distracted. Like, the problem is you get bored, and then you stop paying attention to what you're doing. Same is true in life. Like,
Yeah, that is pretty true.
when was the last time you were doing something and you're like, oh, what's going on? And then you realize that because you haven't been paying attention for the last 20 minutes, all of a sudden, like, you've driven to the grocery store or something.
I think that might happen to you more often than other people.
Well, it's happened to me several times where you're not paying attention, and all of a sudden you're at your house, and you're like, I didn't mean to come here.
I've only ever had it happen with work. I've like gotten in the car to go somewhere and then wound up at work and been like, how did I get to work?
How did I get to work? Okay, so we're gonna stir in flour, salt, pepper seed. I'm gonna call those good enough.
Seems good.
Flour. And then it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon, or a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of celery seed. I don't have celery seed, so I'm gonna do that. Put in a little bit more. And then just shake it. I don't know that I would recommend using a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, just because, again,
It's a lot of salt.
it's a lot of salt, and you can always add more salt if you're like eating your pie and you're like, this could use a little salt.
That's
Put
true.
it in at that time. The other thing, if you don't have celery seed, but you have celery salt, is you could use celery seed,
Celery salt, you mean?
celery salt, and then just use less salt.
Yep. We had neither around. So.
We had neither. Okay, so that's in. I turned down my heat a little bit. I'm going to add in my milk, and then I'm going to add in my beef broth. I looked up a recipe for vodka sauce today, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, watch out, it like catches on fire when you put the vodka in.
Nice.
Caution. And I was like, that would be awesome on the show, except for,
When it caught you on fire.
well, no, that part I was fine with, because that would also be awesome. I feel like that would skyrocket me to fame if I caught myself on
I
fire.
suppose it probably would.
But it was more that there was like nothing redeeming about it. Like it wasn't even
Nutrition wise.
It wasn't even health adjacent. It was just like, nope, I'm bad for you. Everything about me is bad. I was like, aw, that's sad for me.
Yeah, because vodka sauce and pasta is delicious.
Because I was like, even if I had shrimp, and it was like, yeah, even if you had shrimp. Ah. So I'm just adding 1 3/4 cup of broth. Let's see, what else? And then I'm going to simmer over low heat until thick, which is about 5 minutes, and then we'll stir it in parsley and remove from heat.
Man, that would have been the perfect thing to do while we were waiting for that chicken to boil.
I know, I'm sorry. We might just have to scrap this episode.
I don't think it's that bad.
The other thing is my flour, because I added the milk before the broth, it like clumps together. I don't know that this is turning out like good.
I'm sure it'll still taste delicious.
So it might be clumpy. I'm gonna get a whisk to try and save it that way. So it's getting clumpy in there, like the flour is just a big mass that's kind of gotten together, and it's not supposed to do that, it's just supposed to thicken. So I'm gonna get a whisk to kind of break it up and see if I can get it to do like a thickening liquid as opposed to an actual tangible solid. This is, man, it's Monday. I gotta tell you that. And this is about as productive at work, by the way, as I was today.
Well, that'll be good. So when your coworkers watch this, they'll be pretty excited about that.
Well, the thing, like sometimes, like you go to work. Like today, I went down to go talk to Deanna at 8:15 because that's when we have our huddle. We don't have a huddle on Mondays. Never had a huddle on Mondays. It's just not a thing that we do. Like she didn't correct me either. She just let me go. Like talk. She was just like, "Oh, Katie's visiting me." No, I thought we had a huddle today. And then somebody asked if I was coming to the 9 a.m. meeting, which is what is normal. Like it's like the weekly ops meeting that we have every Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "What meeting?" Like, I have no idea what day it is.
I think I should have made you caffeinated tea for this episode, perhaps.
I don't know, my cognitive function. I will say the whisk is working pretty well.
Well, good.
I made sure that nothing broke today. That's what I did.
That's important too.
I got through a little bit of what I needed to, but not nearly as, I didn't get nearly as far. But anyway, whisking it, by the way, will probably make it take a little bit longer to boil, but at least we'll actually get a creamy sauce as opposed to just like, I made flour. You know what flour and water equal?
A ball of flat dough.
Paper mache.
Oh, paper mache?
If you add like, you get the mixture right. That's how I made the maracas when I was in high school.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So, I mean, I was super productive at work today. I'm like a super all-star 100% of the time.
100% of the time.
No worries about that. Oh my gosh. It's like, even, like, it's broken up for the most part, but there are still clumps in here that I don't know if I'll get. And then when you're eating it, you'll just have like clumps of flour all of a sudden. I'm sure that that's delicious and all. So what I would actually recommend, now that I'm thinking this through, is putting your sauce in here first, your broth and your milk, and getting those to a little bit of a nice temperature, and then kind of that with your flour. You know, like
shaking the flour over the top sort of a thing?
Yeah, so that you're adding in the flour gradually as opposed to... It also says to add in the milk gradually, and I just dumped it in, so that could have been the difference as well. I mean, precision of language.
They used it.
They used it, I didn't. So yeah, I'm getting it broken up. But it's supposed to only take 5 minutes. And it is simmering.
Yeah, I mean, you've only been at it a few minutes.
But we'll see if we can get it to thicken a little bit more. And if it doesn't thicken, that actually means that you should add more flour, which again will add more calories to your thing. And I feel like it's been a really calorie-centric episode, but it's just that this is one of those recipes that can so quickly escalate into not being even remotely healthy that you just have to kind of watch it. So now that it's started to boil, I'm actually going to keep stirring, and by boil I mean simmer, and just do a little bit of a round robin with it. I'm not going to be quite so brisk with my movements and just see if it thickens a little bit. And it is starting to thicken.
Oh, good.
I just wish the flour, I mean, there's still clumps in here
I think it'll probably still be delicious, quite frankly.
that I wish would break up. So if you get a clump of flour, just don't eat it. And at this juncture, I think I'm supposed to add the parsley. Yeah. So there is a 1/4 cup of parsley, which is probably like all my parsley.
That's a lot of parsley, a 1/4 cup.
Yeah. That's about all my parsley. We need more parsley.
Apparently.
So in this particular instance, if you don't have parsley, is it really a 1/4 cup? I probably should have double checked that. Yeah, a 1/4 cup. Oh, chopped parsley.
So yeah.
There's a solution to this.
Scoop out some parsley.
Scoop out some parsley. Oh my gosh, Jeremy Shea.
Yeah, because like 2 tablespoons of chopped fresh parsley is like a teaspoon of the herb.
Yes, I'm aware. We'll see if this turns out at all. We might be ordering pizza tonight. Okay, well, that's as much as I'm getting out without like just emptying the entire thing.
That might be the funniest thing I've ever seen you do.
I don't know. There was the time I cooked the turkey without taking a wrapper off.
How much you want to bet this will be our most popular episode?
You know what? I have enough ingredients to just start this part over.
I think we should just forge ahead. You got most of it out, right?
No.
Oh no. Let me consider.
No.
Let me see here. How parsley-rific
It's
is it?
pretty parsley.
Pretty parsley-rific. It doesn't like smell like a whiff of parsley when I smell it. Oh yeah, take a little taste. There you go.
You take a little taste.
All right, I'll take a little taste. I mean, there's definitely a strong parsley flavor. I don't think it'll ruin a pot pie.
Okay.
But if you would like to start over with this part, I'm okay with that.
How about we do this?
I should point out that we're now out of parsley.
I am tired.
Well, you taste it, see what you think.
I'm scared.
I mean, it's not scary, it's just fairly parsley flavored. Yeah, like it's really not bad.
Alright.
It's just more strongly parsley flavored than it's supposed to be, but it still tastes good.
Alright. So we're gonna...
I would still eat it, that's all I'm saying.
We're gonna forge ahead.
Done.
I can't believe that.
I can.
Alright, so we're gonna put the chicken in and then move on with our lives. This is what I get for saying I'm not confident in this meal. Do you remember, Jeremy, when you were taking your war attacks? And I was like, the reason you're not doing very well is because you're so not confident in what you're doing.
I do remember that happening.
Sorry, I'm just transitioning some of the meat.
I was going to say, it looked like all the chicken was in the first one. I don't think you need more vegetables in that one either. I think the other one needs all the helping you get. Much like your parsley mix.
Well, and now there's a ton of the sauce in the sink because I had to grab. So anyway, pretend this isn't quite as green as it is, and you're just gonna dump it over the top.
It's St. Patty's Day pot pie.
I actually think I only have enough for one pie. I think it'll all fit into one pie.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Call an audible. I love it. You want me to scoop the other stuff there on top of that then? Or you got it? I don't think I'd try that.
At some point, they're like, why doesn't she just give up? I'll give up when I bring it out of the oven and it just tastes raunchy.
I don't think it's going to taste bad. I agree that it's not gone quite to plan.
Okay, so then you put your pie on top. Now, what I've essentially done is doubled the calories, right? Because if you have a 1/4 of this, it's different.
Well, you just need to eat 1/8 of this. Like, you have the same serving. You have the same number of servings, just in a smaller pie. a smaller amount of pie. So like you eat an eighth of this instead of a quarter.
So I'm getting rid of the edges of the pie, by the way.
Yeah.
Oops. Just pump it in there. Bump it up! Pump up the jam. Sorry. I haven't been drinking, I promise. Be afraid. Okay, just a second. All the way around. So we have all that extra dough. This is the calorie count for this is just off now. Like it's just very off. Alright, so then one thing that you do want to make sure that you do is cut slits in the top so that it can ventilate. So I'm just taking my knife and cutting the classic, 4 slits. You can be cooler. If you want to be super cool, you take a knife and you press it in like this, and then that's how they get those nice...
A fork, you mean?
What'd I say?
A knife.
Whatever. You can tell this is a fork, right? And this is why sometimes you just have to admit that it's a learning process.
Yep.
And you're just pressing it together, and that's what makes the nice little ridges that make it look professional. Like somebody knew what they were doing.
If you want, I can pretend that I think that when we eat it.
That would be great.
Okay.
I'm gonna really need a confidence booster.
You're gonna need that. Okay.
And I still have some dough that's hanging off the edge. I'm just cleaning it up a little bit. I'm sure that side doesn't look nice. Anyway, then you take your pie, you stick it in the oven, and you're gonna see if you can eat it in 30 minutes. So we'll come back then. Well, probably in 40 minutes. We'll test it. We'll let you know how it went. Jeez.
All set?
Hello, and welcome back to episode number 7, Chicken Pot Pie. Parsley central? I don't know. So anyway, it's been a half an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it out, because at least it'll look nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So, I will say that we did put a cookie sheet underneath the pot pie, just in case it did flow over. So I'm going to pull it out, and that's what it should look like. You'll notice that the edges are a little bit brown here and here. So one of the things that I forgot to do in all the hubbub was put aluminum foil around the edges, and then you take that off in the last 5 minutes, and it prevents these from getting a little bit burner. But the rest of the crust is exactly what we want it. It's slightly toasted brown. It's warm. So we're going to let it cool for another 10 minutes, and then we're going to dig in. I am, at this point, just going to say screw it and eat a quarter of my pie, and hope if I can choke it down. We'll see. We'll let you know how bad things can go on next Katie's Kitchen.